welcome to the Elevate Property podcast. I am your co-host, one half of the host on this first episode of this podcast, and I would like to introduce you to my friend, my brother, my confidant, my soundboard, Mr. BJJVVVVV. This is Brayton, my co-host. The other half that I was telling you about in the intro. I'm just going to give him like a few seconds to introduce himself quickly. We'll get a little bit more into depth with who he is, how he got into the industry. But yeah, Brayton, take it away.
Thank you, Brett. And we are definitely brothers. And it's awesome to be doing this adventure with you, this experience. A little bit about myself. There's not much to tell. I am a husband, a father, a brother, and I think someone a lot of people can look up to. And yeah, I just live life, enjoy life, and always try to pay it forward.
Awesome. So our mission really with this podcast is, I think it was a discussion that came up towards the tail end of us finishing off at the company that we were at.
Yes.
And it was something that, if you think about it, myself and Brayton, we're very driven in terms of when we need to do a job, we get it done. Whether it comes to sorting things out in our families, or whether it comes to the actual work that we do we do on a daily basis. But we've just experienced so many things over our property journey, and I think maybe even prior to that, where it's like to keep it to ourselves would be selfish, because some of these stories are so not only funny, but so it's like something that you think that you'll only hear in a movie. And we really, we used to share it with the people in the office, and they kept on saying to us, you guys really need to speak about these things, because like what you're telling us doesn't make sense. Like, or in reality, things like that really happen. So really our mission, not with this podcast, maybe would have started out as a thing to share our funny stories, to share our crazy stories with people. But I think as we thought a little bit more about the concept, it's evolved into us wanting to bring value to everyone, specifically specifically wanting to know about property or interested in property. So it's really number one, to bring value, and then in that, if we can be funny, by all means, we would want to give you guys a laugh. But yeah, really, I think from our point of view, it's to bring value to people out there, because there's a lot of things we know.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things we don't know. So as much as we are conveying stories, as much as we are learning on this journey, we would want everyone else to be learning as well.
100%. And also the stories that we do share, don't ask us who was that.
We're not giving names. We're not giving places.
Definitely not.
We'll maybe give you the area. You can go figure out the geographical point of it yourself. But yeah, we will probably be sued if we were to give out any names, because yeah, some of the stories, when we share it, you will probably think, this happens in the Kasi, or it happens in the location. No, my friend.
True story.
Not only does it happen there, it happens all over. So really, what I wanted to do to start off this episode is read a scripture, and I hope you'll indulge me just for a second. The scripture comes out of Zechariah 4, verse 10, and it says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand." And this is basically, in terms of the context of the story, Zechariah is met, or is visited by this angel, and the angel comes to him, and the angel is basically, he's having these visions, and he's asking the angel, what does this mean? What does the 7 lamps mean? And in the scriptures specifically, it's talking about the building of the temple. And basically what the angel is saying to him, that in this, that as soon as the last brick is laid of the temple, that people will stand in awe. People will be in awe of the fact that this thing was built. And this is what I want to achieve with this podcast, is that we are building something on a firm foundation that even when we look back, I think in years to come, we will see what we built. And the thing that we're building is not only for ourselves, but it's for generations to come, that people will be able to watch this content back and be able to learn something from it, to take something from it. Because like I said in the beginning, it's just to bring value to everyone else. For our intro episode, it was something that I've been thinking about for a while. And what better way to do it than to share with you guys a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about where this Elevate Property podcast idea comes from, what the idea behind the podcast will be going forward, and really just to give you insights, a little bit of sneak peek into our lives, into our history, into where we come from, what we're about. So yeah, Brayton, let me hand over to you and ask you the question: who is Brayton? Tell us a little bit about your backstory. Tell us a little bit about where you come from. What makes Brayton the person he is today?
So I think at a young age I always liked houses and seeing it being built and visiting different friends and seeing what size houses they're staying in, but never did I actually think that I was going to be doing property. You know, my parents both worked for companies and they worked hard, long hours, and until early in the mornings. Sometimes my mom and them would work, and then doing night shift and coming back home and then sleeping, not having to spend a lot of time with him. And I think, you know, in the time that we grew up, that was the reality of a lot of kids. But they did what they needed to do to put bread on the table. And so growing up in that way, I never had a, like, you do what you need to do to get the job done. Problem solving, like there's a problem, yes, we've got a problem, so we solve it. Whose hands is going to get dirty? Well, you jump in and you get it done, type of thing. One thing is I've been staying in the same property since I was 10 years old.
Sure.
So, and you know, I know there's a lot of people that still stay in their houses where they've lived, but I don't think it's the norm these days.
People are quick to move and move on to something bigger and better.
Definitely.
Or sometimes forced to move because of circumstances.
And that's, you know, with having this property, I know the hours and stuff that my mom and them worked and the sweat and tears that's gone into it. It's, to me, it's a place where family comes together, they gather, it's been a safe haven as well for a lot of people, that property. So I don't think I'll ever just want to sell it as well. It's got a lot of memories, good memories, and which I would gladly share with you along the road. But yeah, when I came into property, it wasn't my plan to go into property. My dad's got his own cleaning company, which I worked with him for a long time. Then from there on, I went and worked for a credit card, a company that delivers credit cards, which also was an experience on its own. Things that I endured there and experienced, fake IDs and
having to throw credit cards up to somebody on the balcony.
People not wanting you to go into their house, but they want you to deliver their credit card. I remember having 21 fraud applications on one day where I had to go and deliver credit cards, and it wasn't a specific house number. It was corner of, and the ID numbers were, every ID number just had the last two digits or something
Changed.
different. Yeah. And I still remember phoning into the office, and I told my supervisor, I said, please just check this, because I think I've got fraudulent cards. And he says, no man, what do you mean? I said, just check, because this doesn't sound right. And then not even 10 minutes later he phones me, because he used to call me Vavavu. Vavavu, don't go there my boy, they're gonna kill you. And yeah, so that was my credit card experience. And from there on I joined with my dad in the cleaning company, so his business is doing, when shops are shop fitted, goes in, gets it clean when the tenant moves in.
Yeah.
So that was my thing. Also saw the country, did a lot of traveling, enjoyed it, and then yeah, I've been in a lot of different a lot of industries. I was in foreign exchange as well for a bit. I did, what was it? I did health and safety, and I was passionate about health and safety. But yeah, my spirit got broken on that. And then a friend of mine, they were working for a company, and they needed someone to do their maintenance manager. And I went for the interview, got the job. I was in IT company as well, software, IT department.
So getting into that maintenance manager role, what do you know about maintenance or property at that point? Have you had any formal training, any formal experience, or is it just like?
I had training from YouTube videos and seeing what my dad.
School of YouTube, it's a real thing.
Yeah, and also what my dad did around the house, or my dad and my uncles and my aunts, my mom. You fake it till you make it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's can you do it? And even when I was doing IT as well, no, I didn't know a lot on how to do the stuff.
Yeah.
But I went to Google, watched videos. I had to take a laptop apart, and then same with in the property industry, with electrical and plumbing, and how do you fix this toilet? And you don't want to always just get a plumber out to come and fix something small. So you go and
figure it out.
You figure it out. Like we've said many of times, you your own limitation.
Yeah.
And you need to also save money in the property industry.
Exactly.
It's not just because you're working for a company, say, come on, let's see how we can deplete the resources. You need to also be responsible, and that's one of my things that I tried to do. I didn't want to unnecessarily spend
money
on maintenance stuff.
And I think even us being the people we are, even though we were put in a position where there was enough resources, we always took it upon ourselves to also look where we can save, even though it wasn't necessarily always a requirement, or not to say that it wasn't a requirement, but we weren't always told in the beginning maybe that you have to look at these options, but it was just in us to see how can we assist the company. The company might have not directly asked us to do it.
Yes.
But just being the type of people we are, is like, how can we then save the company money on this thing?
No, definitely. And also being the example to the teams that we were managing, I think, because they learned a lot as well. Because we didn't just throw anything away.
Yeah.
We kept and see how we can utilize it to the next renovation or next small project. Instead of having to buy, we've already got it. See how we can utilize it.
Yeah.
And it's worked out, and trying to see how we can do more smarter, less maintenance stuff in the future when fixing a problem. So yeah, I think that we definitely did try and instill into our guys.
Yeah.
And contribute to the company.
Mm.
At least try. And you, Brett?
So for me, yeah, I'm a Cape Town born boy. Grew up there. Had it's difficult for me to explain my life because there's a side obviously that my family sees, or my sister sees, who reared me, my sister and husband, who were my parents as growing up. I lost my mom at a very young age. So the memories, I suppose, the things that I remember is the things that affected me the most, and the things that sort of imprinted itself into my brain. Um, so I do remember a lot of the good things, but I think a lot of the bad things I remember because it's things that affected me quite a bit. But really, to sum my life up, my sister them did absolutely fantastic with rearing me, and making me into the person that I am today. Having that drive to always want to exceed expectations. Um, so the pressure for me was always on. I always tell people the story of the way my sister and my brother-in-law in particular always used to say how proud they were, even with just like a 70% or 80% pass, how proud they were of me, and that I'm setting the example. And I suppose that comes with its own pressure as well, because it was myself, my older brother, who was the middle one, and then my nephew, who we are the same age we are the same age. I'm a month older than him. So that pressure was always there to like, they've now said this, so now I need to maintain that. And at some point in my life, that pressure did get to me because my grade 7, I I had to join a new school. I had to go to a new school at grade 7, and for half of that, well, not half of the year, I would say probably 2 to 3 months, I just bunked school for 3 months. Nobody knew. We had this double bunk, so I was sharing a room with my nephew, and we had this double bunk, but it wasn't on top of one another. It was next to each other, and I would move my bed slightly away from the wall so that I could lay in the gap and put the blankets across. So when my brother-in-law would come from night shift, he'd look into the room, he'd see nobody in the room, but I was lying in there. And I'd wait for him to sleep, like into his deep sleep, and then I'd leave the house. And this went on for like 3 months up until they found out and they busted me. And like for me, it was extremely humiliating because like I always just wanted to make them proud.
Yes.
But from there, I think the same thing reoccurred with me again in my grade 12. The same thing happened. I just went through this thing of thinking, my life is so difficult. I don't want to continue with school. And again, I think I bunked the entire half of the year, whatever, and I didn't end up finishing my grade 12. And they again eventually found out because obviously the school needs to notify them that this dude isn't turning up for school. And they find out, and then I have to go and write special exams, and I don't even finish my special exams. I think that I still need to go back and write 2 subjects if I want to pass. So whatever I wrote, I passed with not being in school for an entire half of the year. But I just decided, no, this life is not for me. I don't want to do school. And I wasn't bad academically. Like I could read through, like the way I succeeded at school. Like I listened in class. I never studied one bit. I maybe read through books because I was told to do it. But other than that, I could remember things quite well, and that made me do well in my exams. And from there, so the future looked very bleak for me in terms of what my career choices were. By the way, I always wanted to be an electrician. And my sister had been working in property at the time, and she then said to me, listen, I know this guy who does work for us. He does electrical. I know that that's your interest. Let me chat to him and see if I can get you a job there. She speaks to him. I go in for the interview. He's like, and mind you, I come to this interview with 6 or 8 piercings in my face. So I've got like lip rings, I've got a tongue ring, I've got brow rings, I've got tunnels in my ears and all of this stuff. And the only thing the guy says to me is that I'm going to offer you the job, but know that when you come here, I don't want to see anything in your face. And I'm like, but like, this is my life.
This is who I am.
Anyway, to get the job and start at least contributing in terms of a financial aspect, I remove all of the piercings, and I go into to work. I think that's 2007. I start working in the industry. And again, I think really by God's grace, because the people that I meet at that company, the one guy in particular, funny story, he's also coming on. He started his own company like a year before that as well. So when I'm going through my spiraling phase of not wanting to finish school, he's going through a phase of very young, starting his own business with a friend. They make loads of money, and then he also just off the grid type of thing, because he's got all of this money, he doesn't really need to work. And his father, then at that same time that I joined, his father, who's working for the company, brings him in to sort of get him to a place where he can understand responsibility and understand how to manage money. So they pair us together because he's the qualified guy, and we just hit it off from day one. And anyway, I worked there for a year, and then I move on to the second year was supposed to be the year that I then go on and qualify with this company. But there again, like I think to myself, is this hard labor for me? And my sister then says to me, listen, I need help at where I'm at the company that I'm working for. They are looking at employing a junior. Is it something you'd be interested in? I can't even remember if I had to go for an interview, but all I know, I get the job, and that very next year, January, I start a new job at a big property company, working with my sister. So this is like the ultimate dream, because it's like, I know that she won't call me out on anything.
Well, you hope.
Yeah, I hope. And yeah, I start working in an administration role with her. She teaches me everything she knows, and I actually find that it's something that I'm interested in, and not really to the extent where I think that I would pursue it as a career, because even though again I was good in administration, it wasn't necessarily something that I saw myself doing all of my life, but it set the foundation for certain things.
Yes.
And we were processing the deals behind the scenes. So all the deals that the agents would bring in, we would process those deals. So we'd actually see what the company would earn. We'd see what the agents would earn. And I'm talking about big stuff. I'm talking like 100 million rand penthouse deal. To see the type of commission that people are earning there, to me, it's like I could go on holiday for 3 years not having to work by earning this commission. And yeah, sort of from there, I try and figure out, now as a colored person, you think to yourself, like, how do you get to a place where you are able to put yourself in that position? I don't have an education, keeping in mind, or proper education. And I don't have any contacts to get me into the space. But anyway, at the time, I'm a new Christian, and I think to myself, like, God is going to open the doors for me to be able to get into this industry. And anyway, it just so happens that I spent 4 years at the company learning as much as I can, and then I move on to another company where I basically put myself into a role to be able to become an agent and to be able to earn commission. And the shocking part about all of this is the fact that I was earning a good salary, but in order to move to the other company, I would need to cut my salary by, like, I would be earning 1/3 of what I was earning at the previous. It's like, how does that make sense? Because now I've got married, I have a baby, we just bought a house. It's like, how am I going to sustain this family? And my wife at the time is working for the bank, so it's like, okay, maybe she'll carry us for a couple of months, but then like I need to make it work. And again, like God's grace leading me to the right company, the people that was at the company. There again, the guy that I'm teamed up with is just the right guy. We just get the right area. And it's funny because I don't know how all these stories match, but the guy that I'm working with, he's also super successful at a young age. He's now like early 40s when I joined the company. And he, like anything about business, this guy knows.
Yes.
And he says to me, I don't know where the honesty or the upfrontness comes from, but he says to me, like, I'm a recovering alcoholic, and it's like the owner of the company asked me to come in because he knows the skills that I possess, but what can you offer me? And I'm like, I don't have anything to offer you. I'm new in this industry. Like I'm a good administrator. And he's like, okay, let's make a deal. I hear the way you speak, and I hear that you're a person of faith. you teach me about God, and I will teach you everything you need to know about business and property. And if I tell you this guy knew property and how to negotiate with people, he was absolutely brilliant. The things I learned from him. And yeah, we go on to have a super successful year. We earn awards at the company as a license or franchise within the greater Western Cape area. So for us to earn awards in the area that we were, it wasn't really seen before. And I think we sort of set the foundation there as well, when the guy eventually took over from us as well, that he just continued in that same stream of earning the awards, doing super well in the area. But from there, yeah, basically get the opportunity to move to another company in Cape Town as well, more on the property management side. And then they moved me to Joburg to basically head up they had a small office here, to head up the office and manage the clients that they had here at the time. And that my journey basically starts in property in 2008, and I never looked back from that point on. And I always knew that there was something in that I would start my own business. I never thought that it would be in property. I always thought that it would be something in media or something in IT, because I always had a passion for IT and things as well. But I think like both of us, we jack of all trades. Like anything you ask us, we can do. Like even when we can't do the things, it's like we believe we can do it, and we'll get the knowledge to be able to do it. And I think that's why when I joined the company where Brayton was also at for a long time prior to me coming there, it's like there was just this immediate connection and click.
Yeah.
But there was something different in terms of we always share the part where we say we always knew that we would do a business together. We just didn't know exactly what it was, although it was staring us right in the face at the time.
Looking at everything else but.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because I qualify as a property practitioner before coming to the company, but I don't, in my mind, I think to myself, okay, I'm qualified as a property practitioner. The idea is that I will start a business, but I just don't, it's like, I'm not sure that it's 100% for me, because again, we always fed this mentality that we need to work for a boss or we need to work for someone. And when you're not born into a family where money is like in abundance, or like the things that we get taught, I would say I can speak for my household and say the things that we get taught, it's like always this mentality of you have to work for someone in order to earn a living. And we obviously then start to find that that's not the case, because you can make a living for yourself if you're determined enough to do it. And if there's one message that we can or would want to get across to people, is that there's opportunities out there, and it's on you, the person, to seize that opportunity, because no one's going to make it happen for you unless you have a rich uncle that's going to leave an inheritance for you,
or get an SMS saying,
or get an SMS, or you win the lotto or something. But it's not going to be handed out to you. It's going to be something you're going to have to work hard for, extremely hard for.
Yeah, I think like we've said so many times, that we are programmed, brainwashed from a very young age, going to school. This is the box that you're in. Going into your working environment, this is the box. You have to work these hours. This is the salary that you take home. A lot of people don't have the confidence to do anything else. A lot of people that are the hustlers in like they've never worked for a boss, but they somehow always have money. They were always I think like, is this person dodge? What are they busy with doing?
Yeah.
And you know, there are ways and means of doing it above board, but it's going to take dedication and consistency and hard work, and then also having a chat to yourself and say, listen, you know, I can do this. Yes, there will be a lot of naysayers, and not every day is going to be up. You're going to have many days that you're down, but it's important as well to have the right people on the team.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm extremely grateful for, is that God thought it fit for us, for our paths to cross. And like both of us, you saying you have a feeling that we're going to do something together, and I said I had exactly the same feeling when we just met. Yeah, we wanted to start our own projects, maintenance
maintenance
company.
and projects. That seemed like the most obvious, but
The
it's
most
like,
obvious. But then you think about all the what goes into that as well. It's not just as straightforward.
yeah,
And you know, but with this, I I know that this is not just going to be like a only focus. I know that it's broader than what we.
even this podcast, it's, you think to yourself, you're starting a property company. What has a podcast got to do with a property company? Like, how are you helping somebody
Yeah.
in their property journey with starting a podcast? But look, here we are, and yeah,
Yes.
we're starting this as just one other division or
Yeah.
extension of what we're trying to build with this brand. So, in saying building of this brand, Brayton, where does Elevate Properties fit into this picture? Where, how does the conversation start, and where? So I'll let you share first, and then I'll share on the name and where that comes from. But how do we get ourselves from being in a full-time job, a stable full-time job with really good perks, to leaving that environment, to come and sit on a couch in my house, taking on the challenge of starting our own business in an economy, to be fair, that's not doing all that well in South Africa at the moment. But we make the decision to start a property company, nameless at first. How does that come along, and where does it come from?
Yeah, like especially in this economy, and a lot of people have said, "Are you sure? is this what you want to do?" And we kept on saying, like with COVID, a lot of things changed.
Yeah.
And people realize that yes, they can work from home. Look, it's not for everyone. Definitely not for everyone. There are people that want to be in contact, want to see, get the move away from home, go somewhere, be with their colleagues for the day, and go back home. And some people are just very content at working at home. Leave me in my little box. I do what I need to do, and that's it. Our roles are, were far different to what other people would experience.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that ours was like superpower and stuff, but getting a call 3 o'clock in the morning saying there's a burst pipe. What do we do? Well, switch off the water for one, and no one's. I can't send out a plumber now. No one's going to come out now. But yeah, getting to that point as to when's the right time to do this jump, because we also had the conversation like, okay, if we do it now, then okay, if we do it January, then maybe March we can start up.
Yeah.
But also we didn't know of all the technicalities having to start up, which we'll touch on. But so last year, I think it was last year, I was busy thinking, okay, I want to be more in a leasing role. I don't want to be dealing so much with tenants anymore. And because it's not just tenants, it's the contractors, it's the security companies.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like also we became like advisors on a lot of things, and therapists and healthcare providers. Like, it's a broad role that we had, and for me it was just I felt like I've reached my season in this, and not anything bad with the company. I love the company, I love the people. We had great times there, the people that we worked with, it's just I needed to do a next season, and obviously had a chat, found out, okay, well, you've got the qualifications, and let's see where this takes us.
So the funny thing is, when I joined the company, I think not long after I joined, Brayton and I had a conversation. So Brayton knew all along that I had the qualifications. Like everyone knew that I had the qualification. But we then end up working together for 4 years before we make this call. And in that, I just want to say that timing is so important with a lot of things. I know as people that are in a culture and an age where everything needs to happen now and everything
Yes.
needs to be instant,
Yeah.
you lose the effectiveness of what God wants to do in your life when you try and pursue this thing and push an agenda
Yes.
just because you want something. And if there's one thing that I've learned over the last few years is that as long as you allow God to be God in your life, as long as you allow Him to do what He wants to do, then things will work out as a natural progression. The minute you try and force certain things, it then becomes a burden to you, and you need to manage that thing now because it's something that you forced.
Yes.
But when we allow our Creator to be who He is in our lives, then things start to play out quite naturally and work out the way it should, rather than us forcing things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of the time we pressure into it, where we feel we don't have a choice in the matter, and it's like we need this thing to happen now, and we make the call. Especially as the men, we make the call to do this thing, and we're not always saying it is the right choice, but it's maybe what we felt was right in that moment.
No, 100%. Yeah, and also we knew when we were going to, we wanted to resign at the same time, not to put unnecessary pressure on the company that we were with, but for us to do this, we needed to go at the same time.
Yeah,
because obviously we needed to start implementing stuff and getting stuff sorted, and yeah, so it wasn't to bowl them out or anything like that, but we had to do it in that, because we said as well, okay, if we don't do it now and we wait another 6 months, then it's just another six months, and then what if after that 6 months we don't do it, and then it's just another year that's gone past. So yeah, and so far, like we've had struggles with you having to renew your Fidelity Fund certificate, all of that happening in the background, getting the name sorted, logos and all of that. But it's fun. It's exciting. It's not all doom and gloom, and that you don't feel that there's a future, because definitely we're doing this because we wanted to be an example of what can be achieved for our families, for our friends, and also being guys that tried something.
Yeah. And that's extremely important. Like from my perspective, I always feel that what we are doing is not necessarily only for us.
Yes.
Brayton more specifically has a very big heart for people, and something that I've also been passionate about is equipping people and taking them from a place where they are to somewhere where maybe they never even imagined they could push themselves. Because even with our teams, we could easily identify who the guys were, where you could see this guy has a skill, but it's like, how does he not see how skilled he is?
Yes.
And when you find yourself in that space, it's very difficult for you to actually realize I can use this thing to make something better of myself, because like you said, you just get stuck into doing things just to get it done because that's what's asked of you, or that's what's required of you. So it is very important. And to touch on just my side of the Elevate and the brand, and so Ashlyn, my wife, and I we had a company when we were still we registered a company when we were still staying in Cape Town, and the company was registered under Elevate Life. And the idea behind that for me was more from a motivational point of view. So I think I was late 20s, around about that time. And like, what did I know about life at that point? Yeah, I knew I was weird, but it's like, today, like everyone on Instagram or TikTok is a life coach and those things, and it's like, have you actually even lived life to be able to give somebody advice? Yes, you can share your experiences, but in what capacity are you allowed to call yourself a life coach? But that was my thought process. We then didn't even end up doing anything with that company. A health group then actually ended up phoning us and saying, we see you have this name registered, we want to buy the name of you, and we actually ended up selling that company name. But I always knew that name Elevate, there was something behind it that God wanted us to use. And 2020 COVID, I'm not even sure if we're allowed to say COVID on the stream, but it's fine. We'll bleep it out. But COVID hits, and we attend. Ashlyn and I are running a home cell group for our church, and Ashlyn gets a word to say that we will start a property company. Now we probably knew this already, but it's really at that point in time, it's something that stood up in her. And she says to me, I feel that we need to start a property company. This is 2020. And then COVID hits and we go into lockdown, and like, it's so weird for us, like Brayton and I were still fully at work during this time because we ops guys, so we need to be involved with getting things sorted out, because now everybody's at home and now they're seeing all of the problems. And anyway, we register Elevate Properties in 2020 because we like God saying that we're going to start a property company. And the name then just lays there. We do the returns and stuff every year, but we don't end up doing anything further with the property company. And then last year, Brayton comes to me and he says, listen, yeah, I've had a conversation with somebody, and I feel we need to start a property company. And I'm like, I've got the name registered, I've got the qualification. Maybe we should start a property company. And it's the weirdest thing and I think all of us have moments like these where we experience certain stuff that, like, we know that this thing was put in place for a purpose, but only up until somebody says something to us do we realize, like, why did we wait that long? But that's why I preface it by saying, like, timing is very important, and seasons are very important as well. Just like summer, spring, autumn, winter needs to happen. Yes. We have seasons in our life where things need to happen, and things need to happen at the right time. Yes. And even if I look at it with us then making the leap to start the company, because then we discussed this, what is it, like November?
I actually think it was like October. Yeah, we started having conversations and thinking, how do we do it? We didn't at that point still decide on Elevate.
Yes, we didn't.
We had all
these nameless
different names that we were thinking of, and okay, what would work? Why? That term of why fix that something
that isn't broken. Yeah,
we already have it in place, so run with it. But then I think the challenge was in getting the logo.
Correct, the logo, and then there's all this discussion going around. What is the logo, and
because you want to do it right. You
exactly.
Not that you're going to get it right the first time, but you want to do it right. You want to have it mean something.
Correct. Correct. And that's one thing as well. Like you'll hear some of the things that we said on this episode is very based, and the foundation is in Christian values and the Bible, and the type of people that we are. We're not religious by any sense of the word. We people that have a relationship with our Creator. We people that take our time and effort to serve Him, because we realize that we got a second chance when we got to know Him. So that's why we will never be ashamed, or we will never just do something because it's popular. We feel we do things because there's meaning attached to it, and somebody's life can be changed. Even if we just change one person's life with this podcast and with this business, I think we would have accomplished what we needed to accomplish. Yeah. So October comes, we decide to do this, and we still hazy on the details because there's discussions going, and we still don't know when. But like you say, we discuss. We say maybe if we do it January, or maybe. And that year, 2023 ends, and crazy into the year because we've the role that I was doing, there were all these new buildings coming into the portfolio and trying to get things sorted out so that people can occupy these spaces, and time just seems so short for us to actually get everything sorted out. And January, the aim was in December, we decided on this. We're going to do it, and we said, okay, we do it January, and we blink and December's over, and the beginning of January is there because we also close in December. So in order for you to have the conversation with your boss, the company needs to be open. It's not something you can do while he's on holiday.
And and everyone's leave isn't the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Time frame. Yeah.
And we look, and we're in January, and we're like, okay, what do you think? Like, and again, hectic start to the year, and it's like, when do we actually get time to do these things? But then I think the momentum had already started at that point,
Yes.
and it was really just for us to say, we're going to make a decision to do it now. And it's like, we want to do things right. We're going to give 2 months notice instead of 1 month. So the plan was do it beginning of January, and then we finish off at the end of Feb. That doesn't end up happening because we're so busy. And then in Jan, we say, okay, let's just do it for Feb. Give 2 months. Feb, March will be our last, and then we'll move into this new venture. And again, get so busy that by the time we look again, it's the beginning of Feb, and we're like, we still haven't even typed out the letters. And I remember sending Brayton a message to ask, have you done your letter? And he's like, what are you talking about?
What letter?
And I'm like, it's the 1st of Feb, dude. And yeah, I think it was the 2nd or the 3rd where we actually go and meet with the managing director of the business, and we're like, listen, this is what we've decided to do. We are done with property management.
Yes.
Like Brayton said earlier, we had absolutely no issues with the company. We were very well looked after. We just felt it was our season to move on, and we share the news with him. Obviously, both of us being in similar roles, very important roles in terms of the division of the company that we were in. Obviously came as a shock that we would both give our resignations in at the same time.
Yeah.
But it happened, and we did it. And from that point on, there was so much planning, obviously, that had to happen from there. And I just want to say one thing in terms of that as well. When we gave our resignation, it didn't mean that the amount of effort and the amount of work that we put in to giving the company that slacked by any sense of the word. I think we even put more in to make sure that we did things the right way before we left. And that's important because with starting a company, there's certain things you need to think about as well, is that if you have somebody come and work for you, how would you want the scenario to play out? Because it's inevitable that people will join and people will leave at some stage, depending on where they are in their life.
Yes.
And if we would want things to be done right in our company, we would then want things to be done right from our side when we were leaving the company as well. And yeah, we sit here in June. It's a few months down the line, and we are running now. More specifically, like things are starting to take shape. Took longer than what we expected because with all the regulations and the things we had to get in place, it took a lot longer. And I was actually just sharing with our group last night that I still see the favor of God in our lives as well, because I said to you, I sat in a seminar with the regulatory body, and some people have been waiting for 24 months and 12 months and 6 months to get their certification and stuff sorted out, and we got ours done in 2 months, although we wanted to get it done a lot sooner.
Yes.
So it does throw out our timeline. However, things are starting to fall in place, and we know that things are happening at the right time. And even with delays and things, we still know that we still have favor in the spheres that we operate in as well. So that is really a condensed version of the Elevate Property story. And I think I shared a little bit as well in terms of where the podcast idea then comes from. Like it starts from, we just need to be sharing these crazy stories and evolving into something to how do we then add value to people as well through these podcasts.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of guys and ladies that are in the same, that did the same role or is doing the same role as what we did, could relate to all the stuff that we've been through.
Yes.
You know, and also dealing with our guys. It's also not always easy managing a team with different cultures and different beliefs and different views on a lot of things. And but I think also when we left a good team.
Yeah.
100%. We did give them the tools that was needed. Like some of our guys never even knew that they could do what they were doing.
Yeah.
Running a team, managing a team, giving back reports, stuff like that. You know, yes, it was teething and, but I am proud, and I know you are proud of the team that we left behind. And that was also a bittersweet, but also you need to grow. You can't just stagnate because of you wanting to be with those people.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it's final. Your paths will still cross.
Yeah.
But just to share, like I think it was in last month, I went to a property that I went to go and view for a potential client. And when I was at that specific property, my previous team from the previous company, like, hey, you are here. We thought you died. Are you still around? It's like, yeah. And this one guy didn't even look like he aged. he's so old, and he's still there. But that's nice. And they were hugging me and like, how are you? And that's nice, you know, because I know that we left a good impact on the guys. We're not shouters. We don't swear. We don't. Yes, we do get angry. Yeah. But we always try and mitigate stuff in a sensible way. Yeah. Don't always get it right, but majority of times I think we kept it calm and cool. Yeah. And it's not something that I would change for anything.
For anything, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely educated us. We learned a lot. Learned to deal with people, and you know, wasn't just managing the chaos that comes with property or this and that. A lot of times it was managing personalities, and also managing your own. Because not everyone sees that thing as yellow, and sometimes you have to cool down a bit and then revisit something again. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun.
It was.
But this I'm very excited about.
There's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, "People will forget what you did and what you said, but people will always remember how you made them feel."
Yes.
And just with what you were saying, like the person I know you to be as well, is that even your worst enemy, when they're going through a trial, you will probably be the first person they call, because they will always remember how you feel. Because even your worst enemy, you treat with not only the utmost respect, but you can see that love that doesn't come from a fleshly or emotional thing, that love that can only be given by one person or one creator, is that same thing that I think a lot of people see in you as well. And that's important. Like I think if there's one big lesson that you taught me when I joined the company, it was that how you made me feel when I joined, is that like when I joined the company there was so much happening, so many changes and things taking place, but and you yourself, all of the things I came in to alleviate some of the pressures and stuff that you were dealing with. But even in that, you made sure you took the time, even though it maybe meant you had to do a little bit more, work a little bit later. But the fact that you took that, and that's something that with the 4 years that we were together at the company, is that started to become ingrained within me as well. So there's many other things that you have taught me, but that I can say is something that saying rings true to me with you as well, is that you make people feel a particular way, that even you can go back to a company that you were at 10 years ago, and people will still remember you. They will still run up to you and say, you're still alive. And it just speaks to the type of person that you are. And one of the things that I really pray will be a pillar within our business as well, is that whoever encounters us, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a client, whether it's just a security guard at a building, that they will remember how we made them feel. And I think that when we do that well, our company will be successful. What we do will be successful. When we apply ourselves to it, we'll be successful in that. And just before we go on to the closing section of the podcast, can you believe we've been recording for an hour?
I still asked you how long are we doing that?
At the beginning of it, we said that the idea came along because we wanted to share certain stories. What is that one story, or not that one story, but what is one of the stories that's top of mind for you that we're going to share today in the story time segment of this podcast, that when you need to tell a funny story, you need to have a good conversation starter at the gathering? What is that one story you always tell about being in the property industry that you say it and people look at you and say, is this like a real story? Are you serious?
Does it really happen? Okay, so I'll tell the one that I told you just before we started recording. Is Brett wasn't working with me at the time. I think I was just still new at the family company, and went to go and see this one tenant, and so she works for the guy that is in who owns the company. But she's quite a character. Also, she's also one of the people that still stays in contact with me. She's got a good heart, and but I was still new. I think it was water coming in underneath the roller doors or something like that, and the stock was getting wet, and I was walking in front of her, and she clapped me like a solid clap. I think I actually even
lost your wind.
Yeah, I was like, and I remember even mentioning it to my family. Mom was like, "Wat het sy jou geklap?" Like, yeah. It's like, what do you do? I just kept on walking, trying to get my breath back. That's what I tried to do. But yeah, we've got many of those stories. I think before we actually also tell some stories, we maybe just have to think about the words that we
used before. Luckily, this is edited, so whatever we say, we can take out if we don't like it. It doesn't sound right.
Yeah, but it's been an experience that I definitely enjoy, even being clapped like that's
out of the blue.
But I did get the league result. maybe the guy, because the contractors were there as well. Yeah. And they saw she clapped me. So
we don't want to be next in line.
Yeah. We better make sure we get this right. We don't want to come and visit here again.
And that's the things you have to deal with. Like, at the end of the day, you're working for a company that needs to make money with this client in place. And it's not to say that the clients can just do what they want, but to a certain extent, you can't just go off and like imagine you had a different reaction.
Yeah.
Like they would have probably moved out.
But also, when she did do the initial, I don't even think she realized what she did.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't have context, Brayton isn't the biggest guy. Like he's very sturdy in his capacity, but yeah. And what is she, like a Buddha Macy? And
Well, she gyms.
yeah.
She does
So
weight.
she probably came from a heavy
I must have been.
class the night before, and she thought, okay, yeah, you'll be able to take it.
So my colleague at the time was like, "Yo, bro, are you okay?" I'm just walking.
Let me walk it off.
But he's like, "Yo, I even felt that." Yeah, but I didn't say much about it. It's okay. I
Just continued.
just kept on walking, trying to not cough.
And yeah, this, believe it or not, but the stories get crazier. And as we continue with the episodes as well, we'll share a little bit more of some of the stories that, yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit more hair raising than the club one. But yeah, if you all wanted to know, Brayton turned out fine. I think, yeah, he wasn't concussed or anything, but
like with working with you in the office, because at my when I was working at the IT company, I used to be the prankster, and when you came along, I'm like, yes,
partner in pranks.
yes, not just me, because when I was at the IT company, they used to put me in this bin, and then they would push me around and like just leave me in the middle of the floor, and then someone will come and open it, and I would jump out. Like, someone's got a delivery.
Yeah.
And I remember also being underneath the table at this in our group, and this lady, she used to go for smoke breaks a lot, and I would sit underneath her table, and then I would just push out the drawer. She ran across the office one day, and she was like, "You're gonna give me a heart attack." She's Indian, Natasha. "You're gonna give me a heart attack."
And that's the thing I think about both of us. What connected us together as well is that whenever we walked into an environment, we always just wanted to lighten the mood, even if we could feel that there was a vibe or there was something a little bit off. It was always, we wouldn't pay to do it. I think maybe sometimes the bosses got a little bit irritated with us. But if we could make somebody smile that day, if we could make somebody's mood lighter that day, and sometimes I think we maybe even uplifted ourselves after being to a difficult client or dealing with a difficult client, that just to relieve that. And I do think people around us appreciated it to a certain extent. Maybe not the person that was involved with the prank.
at the time, yeah. Laughter is still the best medicine.
Exactly. And they saw the humor in it maybe a few days after, or a few weeks after. But that's just who we are. We want to bring life and light and lightness into a space when we're there, because that's where we thrive. That's where we do well. And if we can make one person's day better, then we've done what we wanted to do.
I think we'll invite the one person that was on our target list,
yeah,
so that she can give her
account
version of the story.
And then obviously we don't want to leave you guys without giving you some value from the podcast. We hope that with our story that we've shared, that you have gotten some value out of it already. And if you do have any questions on any of the things that we've said, or any questions on anything that we might have not said, please pop it down in the comments section of this podcast. I wanted to read an article that I'm subscribed to, and I just want to give props to the Daily Investor. I am subscribed to their website and newsletter, so I do get things on a daily basis from them. And one of the things I know that constantly gets asked, especially in the property industry, is it better to buy or is it better to rent? And I suppose it depends on the context. It depends on the person's situation, where you're at in your life. Renting can be a good thing. And even for a prolonged period, I think with the company that we were at, like Brayton said, it was a very family-orientated company, and they had a lot of properties in their portfolio. And I know specifically with the chairman's portfolio, he had people that were staying with him for like 10 years plus.
The one guy was even there, I think, for 25 years.
Yeah, in his portfolio. So there are pros to it, and I think that the one gentleman, even he owned his own properties, but he chose to rent. So there definitely are the pros and cons with that. But like I said, it does obviously depend on the person that is asking the question. There's no one size fits all for that question. And there are certain things, a lot of things to be aware of when you are buying a property. And I just want to go through some of that thing. So when you are buying a property, when you're going to become an owner of a property, things that you need to be aware of is a deposit payment. So when you're going onto a site like Property 24 or any of the other sites, even our own website, go and visit it, elevateproperty.co.za. And things, when you see the purchase price, that's only the first part of it. You go to the property, you like it, you're interested in putting in an offer. Even with commercial space or industrial space, the purchase price, the cost don't only stop there. The cost involved with the buyer is the deposit. In some cases it is optional. However, in most cases you will need to put down a deposit, and there again, the size of the deposit will determine on the repayment terms that you do get on your loan as well. Deposit cost is then one. Then you get your transfer costs, and those are things that not everyone is aware of. So we always see the term being thrown around in terms of there's no transfer duty payable on this property, and that is true. On a property, I think it goes up to about 2 million now. You don't have to pay transfer duty, and that duty is to the state. However, there are still transfer costs involved with buying a property. Whether you're buying a property of 100,000, whether you're buying a property of 10 million, there's always transfer costs involved, because there is a stakeholder that needs to recoup certain costs for rendering a service. So there is cost involved with property purchases, and that's sometimes something that gets glazed over, and people only find out once documents have been signed that now I've got this 50,000 or 100,000 rand bill in transfer costs, in bond costs, and it's something that needs to, I think, really, even from our side as people in the industry, to properly explain to people what the costs are involved. So there's a difference between a transfer duty and actual transfer cost. The transfer duty is a fee. It's usually a set fee that's worked out on the purchase price amount that is payable to the municipality of that district, and then the transfer cost that is due to the attorney that needs to process the deal and deal with the deeds office and do all of the stuff that they need to do there. And then you've got the bond cost, which is basically for the bond attorney to make sure that all of the legal stuff is taken care of there. So there is that in cost involved there as well. So your transfer cost, also known as conveyancing fees, that's things you need to be aware of. There's also certain bank fees you need to be aware of. So some people choose to approach the bank sometimes directly. We always recommend going through a bond originator, because they, first of all, the first good thing about that, the bond originator doesn't cost you anything. If they bring a deal to the bank with you as their client, they get paid from the bank directly. So they actually render you a free service upfront to be able to get you the best rates. And they don't only go to one bank, they go to more than all the major banks offering bonds, and they will then get you the best rates on that. So the bank fees is something you need to be aware of as well and discuss with your bond originator. And then there's obviously the estate agent fees, the fees that we earn by being the ones who firstly made sure that the property was available to you to be able to see and introduced you to the property. And we then earn a fee out of that as well. And then there's also registration fees that's involved with a property transaction as well. The good thing about it is that the transferring attorney will be able to give you a breakdown of all of these fees as well. There are certain calculators and things that you can use online. You'll see specifically when you go to our website, elevateproperty.co.za, hashtag shameless plug. We've got a bond calculator on our website, and when you put in your purchase price amount, it will give you the prime lending rate of 11.75 at the moment. It will ask you what size deposit you're wanting to put on. When you press calculate, it's basically going to give you the transfer cost amount with the transfer duty included and the bond cost amount included in there as well. What the transferring attorneys will basically do, they will give you a statement of account as well in the process of the property transferring, and that will have a breakdown of every single cost that was involved to get the property registered or deregistered from the person that's selling it and registered onto your name when you are purchasing. So all we ask is that you do your homework when you are buying, and for us as the real estate agents or the brokers within the industry, it is our responsibility to give you the information, and we will always make sure that in our business we are transparent with these things, so that when people make purchase, when they rent out the space, that they always feel that they've got value out of the transaction, and not only us feeling that we've got value. So there is a model where we all are happy with the transaction, and that's what we will strive to do in our business. So that information did come from the Daily Investors website. I just want to quickly run through the renting part of it. With the renting part, you've obviously got your upfront deposit. That is usually a 1 month's rent. I know probably in the Western Cape they go up to 2 months rental there. And you got your first month's rent that you need to pay. So all of that needs to be paid in advance as well. So it won't only be the rental amount that you see when you're looking at a property, it's going to be that amount plus a deposit amount. Some agencies do ask, or some landlords do ask for a deposit for maybe if there's gas in the place, they will take a gas deposit. In the event that when you do move out, you take the gas bottle. Please don't do that, people. Like people that are in operations struggle when you take the gas bottles out.
It's not yours.
And so they will take a gas deposit. Sometimes they'll take a water and electricity deposit. So just be aware that there are all of these things as well. However, you do get refunds on these deposits if you've left things in order. So in my case, for example, what I always used to make sure is that if I've moved into a place where there's gas, that when I move out, that I leave a full gas canister there, so that I know I can then get my full deposit back. The same with your water and electricity. I know what a lot of people like to do is say, you can use my rent to pay you can use my deposit for the rent, but they don't understand that there's still a portion of water and electricity that still needs to be paid. That's not going to just be covered by a 1 month's deposit. And then also obviously with the rental, your rental, then depending on the lease agreement that you do sign, it does escalate every year as well. So it can be anything from, it's usually from about 8 to 10%. However, some landlords, depending on the size of their portfolio, are willing to enter into negotiations to give you a lesser increase if you are a good tenant, if you do look after the property as well. That goes for residential, industrial, commercial as well. So those are just some of the points and the value that I wanted to share with our segment for giving value back to you, the listener or the viewer, if you're watching on YouTube. And that is basically all from me. Brayton, is there anything you want to close off with our first episode? It's exciting. We've been talking about this for a while, but the day is here.
Yeah, even with the podcast, because we've been talking about doing the podcast, and you've done a phenomenal job. And I just want to say thank you for all your efforts that you've put into this, and choosing me as your business partner, and our friendship. It's not always advisable for friends to go into a business venture, and like even in the back, are you sure you're doing it right, and you have all the legalities and stuff sorted out, and it's probably people that's been burned before and done all that, but this is again an adventure that I'm looking forward to, and I'm very happy to be doing it with you and your family and my family, and let's see what God's got planned for us.
Yeah. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now. Hit the notification bell and turn on all notifications, so that as soon as a new episode is scheduled to come out, you will be notified and you won't miss it. So we thank you for taking the time out to watch this video. We hope you'll tune in to our first episode, and there's so much more to come from this podcast and even this business. So we hope you'll come back and you'll stay tuned into what we are doing. Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye. 11.